listen to this presentation. So this format is going to be on screen, as you can see. So we're going to have quite a bit to discuss today, and I look forward to you getting the knowledge that you need on today's presentation. So to begin, I'd like to welcome everybody. Once again, if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn that bell icon on, so every time there's a brand new video, you'll be first to be notified. So today's topic, and the title of this topic, is Dissection of Credit Repair and the Platform to Build Wealth. We're going to give you a 10,000 feet overview and how you can leverage this knowledge to move ahead faster and further. So let's begin. So like I said, before we start, don't forget to subscribe, turn that bell icon on, so every time there's a brand new video such as this, you will be first to be notified. So let's begin by asking you guys some questions, right? How's 2020 been so far for you all? I know we're past halfway through the month. It's the 17th already of January. So, we're already moving ahead, right? So has credit been a challenge, right? Has credit been a challenge? Has bad credit followed you from 2019 on to 2020? What are some of the goals, actually, that you're like to set and fix for your personal credit this year, right? Leave a comment below. Let me know. More importantly, what's going to change so that you can make sure that bad credit doesn't even interrupt your lifestyle or your well-being, right? So feel free to share below in the video. Leave a comment. If you're on this premiere, leave it on the chat on the left, to my left, or which would be to your right. So it's important, right, that we share and we encourage each other, and I'd love to know more about what your goals are this year. So I'd like to start off by talking about some topics. Now, before paying for another sweep, I want you to pay attention and watch this, okay? Lately, I've seen a lot of sweep programs being sold with the promise to remove negative items within a short time frame. We've all seen it, and a lot of us are actually curious as to how this would work. What I'm going to ask you guys is, please don't fall for this, okay? Do not fall for this. There's a lot of credit sweeps that's been advertised and sold to many willing individuals who actually are desperate for credit repair. That could be some of us right now watching this. Some of these guys are just fishing on your inability to understand this. And I want you really to take away from this presentation today as much as you can to help yourself. Credit sweeps, right? You have to be careful, right? The issue is, like, most of the tactics that are being utilized by these so-called individuals, they're quite damaging. And the worst part is it can actually cost you months to years to actually correct the course. And I'm very serious about that, because a lot of people think, the fast way is the best way. And unfortunately, what happens is the techniques that are actually utilized by some of these individuals are quite damaging, and that can hurt you, beyond what you can imagine. So let me give you some examples of actually how they perform their sweeps. A lot of these individuals actually use the FTC's identity theft method. We all heard of this, the false police report, and filing an identity theft claim with the credit bureaus. And believe it or not, they're actually charging you between $2,000 to $3,000 for this, maybe sometimes even more. And this is technically something that you can do for free if it really is a legitimate identity theft scenario. Okay, I'm going to give you some fun facts. Some of these specialists will actually print out outdated templates, believe it or not, scribble your account numbers on them, and send it by mail. To be honest, they don't even send it by certified mail after you spent hundreds to thousands with them, right? That's pretty dramatic. Fact of the matter, the real sweeps require specific sets of information on your entire report. You absolutely need a game plan, or what I call a attack strategy, and you have to have a committed timeline that's both aggressive and progressive at the same time. You have to perform a sweep in those matters respectively. If not, then most of the sweeps that are being done out there are pretty much ID theft or regular mailing campaigns just to delay the inevitable. Most of these guys will say, hey, look, it's just going to take another 30 days or another 60 days or another 90 days. But the reality isn't that the same as credit repair. Why pay for a sweep, which it wouldn't make any sense, right? So just caution there. Now, How do you tell? I want to bring this to you guys. How do you tell if somebody actually did the identity theft method on your profile? Right? There's a lot of things that we're not sure about. Now, I'm going to give you guys some strategies that you can use if you were gone or have gone through a credit sweep program that you believe was unjustified, or you didn't get the outcome and you feel like you've been ripped off or left on the side. I want you to call your credit reporting agencies, or if you have a copy of your report, you're going to see on the top with your information, it says this profile is as a victim of identity theft, right? And if that's the case, right away from your credit repair strategies, on your first month you see that, and in the next month you see that, that means that's what's happening. So if that's the case and you feel that this is potentially damaging for you, what you want to do is you want to call the reporting agencies and cancel that request for identity theft. The reason why you want to do that, and a lot of people think, well, this could be damaging. The reality is if you cancel the request for identity theft after having contacted the bureaus, you reset the clock. You're back to normal. The creditors are not challenged, right? They don't communicate with each other, put you into an internal database to call you, somebody who's trying to scheme against the credit system. And it'll help you as you progress through your credit repair journey, apply for accounts without the hurdles or challenges. Okay? So that's one way to figure out if you've been a victim of identity theft, aka credit sweep strategy that's been executed with that method. So a lot of people say, well, how about, a lot of people scribble on them letters and then they send it to the credit reporting agencies. The scribbling, doesn't it work as effectively? So this will really depend, right? Excuse me. Now, because you scribble the letter doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a different outcome, right? Because the goal of scribbling was people want you to kind of like, hey, I want you to read my letter, not just to pass it through a system, right? You want people within the departments to pay attention? Sure. They'll definitely review it manually. But here's the problem. It still has to go manually through the eOscar anyways, or any affiliated systems regardless. Think about that, right? Are they the ones who are going to just bypass the entire system and infrastructure that's probably been spent on millions of dollars to refine and tune in with the algos and the automations and just bypass that and they just go into the system and manually update? No, because at the end of the day, it has to be reporting compliant, which means there are certain standards and rules, which means the system has to still step into the game. If it doesn't, then that means that it's not being done the appropriate way. So what does that tell you? It still says, hey, if I submit my reports and I scribble on it, or if I write handwritten letters, the chances of them reviewing for sure, it's very high. But it still goes through the eOscar, especially depending on what you wrote. So again, this leaves you with a gamble on whether or not it'll work or it's not going to work. What you need to do is you need to create a more meaningful outcome. You need to take a structured and meaningful approach. Because at the end of the day, you still want outcomes. Regardless if you scribble it or if you put stickers or if you fold the paper or you send a flower, the result is the same. You want things to be taken care of. You want those negatives off your report. In order to get that outcome, you absolutely need to make sure, right, that your approach is very structured. So here's some of the ways you can actually create a meaningful approach, right? First things first, you need to understand that credit repair is a process, right? You need to understand the credit repair is a process. And I'm talking about a systematic approach, which is A, could be your bad credit or terrible situation, to Z, which is your ideal credit situation for the goal that you're trying to achieve. And you have to make sure that your ideal goal starts by being imperfect, because it's a process, right? The fun fact that you have the privilege of fixing a past issue, which would be bad credit based on whatever circumstances you went through, is a gift. You have to use this gift. Don't try to go for shortcuts. That's going to damage you. In addition to being a gift, it's your opportunity to build a lot of wealth, massive wealth. I'm going to show you some of the ways you can do that in this video, but realize that. Okay, this is how you create a meaningful approach to credit repair. And the goals that you're setting out is going to be imperfect at the beginning. It'll be a process. You have to start taking approaches that make sense for you. So I'm going to challenge some of the misconceptions. I'm going to share some of the misconceptions with you all because I want you to deep dive with me on this lesson. And it's important that you pay attention, write some notes. If not, review this video again if you want some clarity. But it's important that we go through this together. So Here's what I need you to know. 2020 should be a goal for you to understand your credit reports. Make the effort to do that. Because if you know how to read it, if you know how to analyze it, then you can strategize an action plan. It's so much more, you get so much more confidence and clarity by doing that. The knowledge about knowing how to do these things will not only help you overcome all these false promises, miscommunications, and potentially getting ripped off, but it'll help you navigate through the credit space effectively, right? You'll know exactly what steps to take next, how to do it effectively, how to do it in a way that is properly structured, which will not give you obstacles and challenges during underwriting, which is very critical, right? And in fact, many of the students that I have, right, who worked on their personal files, their husbands and families, they've done that already, right? They've done it to their immediate relationships, friends. They got the outcomes. So it's important that you take the time to equip yourself properly for 2020. Here's the 5 steps that I'm going to list out for you for excellent credit. This is very critical because once you get this, right, you'll be in good position to basically conquer your credit territory. So if you take a good look at the screen, there's 5 elements. Number 1, you have to further your existing creditor relationships. This is very critical. Number 2, you need to understand your credit reporting rights, to gain knowledge on that, and learn how to enhance so that you can commit to getting it done. That's very critical. You also need to enhance your credit report by deleting, and I'm going to say the key words here, unwanted, misleading, inaccurate, and damaging items. Most of you guys are taking templates that have inaccuracies. If you write in your letter those 4 words, you probably have a higher rate of success, depending on the strategy that you lay out. Okay? Number 4, improve your personal financial knowledge. That's a must. Keep a controlled balance sheet. We're going to talk about that in a bit, but improve your financial knowledge. Keep a controlled balance sheet. Improve your household cash flow. That's a very critical component to making sure that you move on ahead. And finally, this is a realistic thing that you need in order to gain excellent credit. Because if you don't have a milestone or light at the end of the tunnel, you're going to run in a circle like a hamster in a wheel, right? You have to set a financial target. And in fact, it has to be one. That financial target be something that you can achieve within a 12-month cycle. It's a very critical component to building excellent credit because now you have a goal that you have to achieve. So you'll do everything that you can to commit to those 4 points. So let's review those points step by step. All right, number 1, how do you further your existing creditor relationships? If you've been with a creditor, let's say for more than 12 months, and are in good standing, you have to reach out to them. All right, once you reach out to them, ask them if they got any promotional offers that you can take advantage of right away. And the reason why you want to do that is because you might qualify for a bump in your credit limit, which is good for you, right? But before you get to that point, make sure that when you're asking your questions, ask if they do a credit pull. And if they do that, ask them if they have anything that's a lower entry requirement that doesn't require a credit pull. For instance, perhaps with a credit pull with that creditor, you could get a $2,000 bump in a limit. But let's say without it, you got to get a $500 limit, which is pretty good, right, comparatively. So what your goal should be is to get that 500 because you don't want your inquiries to stack up your report. So that's important. Now let's assume that you call them and they have nothing available and you have a really good credit standing with that relationship. What you want to do is every 30 days, wait 30 days before you try, call back, verify if they have something, right? So you have to be persistent and it's just one call every 30 days. It's not very difficult. Fact of the matter is you're already in good standing with them. You have nothing to be shy about. You should take full advantage of your rights and your ability to tap into those resources. So this is a critical step because if you improve that, your utilization improves, which means your score, you do the math, goes up. So that's very critical. So far, so good. So if you guys liking so far, leave it in the comment section, leave it in the chat. Tell me you're excited about what you're learning here. Number 2, understand your credit reporting rights. right? Don't just take things literally on Section 609 and a few little parts of the entire law. In fact of the matter, you have the whole, and I mean the whole Credit Reporting Act to help you, right? I'm actually providing a link of the credit reporting rights in the description from Cornell Law's Consumer Rights website. You can actually go through it. It's very extensive, but it's easy to learn. Okay. First of all, when you're writing your letters also, use the appropriate verbiage. This will help you. Don't just be bland. Don't be inexplicable. Don't say things that are nonsense. Take the approach like I gave you. Include words such as misleading, inaccurate, non-compliant, not up to code, damaging, all these type of things. Because that's what it is, right? At the end of the day, if you don't get funding because your credit is terrible or something is just not right, and you find out that the items that are blocking your ability to borrow, first of all, being reported in completely nonsense ways, that's damaging because you just perhaps lost a home which is worth X amount of dollars. You're jeopardizing your lifestyle. It's hurting your integrity as an individual, right? So these are real facts for negligent reporting that's not compliant to code, that's damaging, misleading, inaccurate, incomplete, right? Those are some of the things that you need to know. Let's move on. Number 3, enhance your credit reports. How do you enhance your credit reports? Well, first, you have to analyze your entire report, right? That's the first step. Like I said, the knowledge is critical. If you have to, you can print it out and write on it, or use a software like Cami or a PDF editor to be able to highlight, comment, write, or even scribble on those reports, because that's how you learn. You have to take some notes, and I would encourage you to write notes on the most important parts, which you need to fix, and figure out what is wrong with those specific items, right? Now, I'm going to point out that PI minimizer technique is an extremely crucial part to starting your credit repair journey. Extremely crucial. Because if you start with that, and there's mistakes on a personal information, right? Let's assume there is. Then what happens is everything that you do, you can item anchor it to the personal information to get items removed. And in addition to that, you'll have all the verbiage, the letters, you'll have the strategies, the analysis done on how certain items, first of all, even before anchoring the personal IDs to those negative, that they're already misreporting. They're already non-compliant, damaging. So you get all the more arsenal and weapons in your arsenal to attack. Like I said, the attack strategy, right? So keep that in mind. Let's talk about improving your personal financial knowledge, right? Now we're in the space in 2020. And if that means that in the last year you've had a great year, but you want to improve this year, even if it means you have to be a bit frugal and you have to be considerate towards your savings and be less, flamboyant or spend less in terms of expenses, so be it. Who cares? You're not trying to impress anybody. The only thing that you can impress is when you look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, have I done right to improve my personal credit and financial situation? The people that are out there, they don't care about you or your family or your well-being. All they want is, I want to be part of a society that's conform, it's having fun because it feels good to have these expensive things. And it is good. It feels good. But the thing is, you have to have the means, right? So don't follow lavish lifestyle choices right now. A lot of people put up a lot of videos, right? You notice that I don't do these kind of things, right? Because discretion is the ultimate weapon. Because if nobody knows what you're doing, the less susceptible you are to lawsuits at the same time. You have to be very careful how you act and do things. The biggest thing you need to have access to is your own knowledge about what you have access to. Because then you can serve your family and your friends appropriately. So the objective should be to enhance your cash flow so that you can start thinking about guaranteed incomes and the outcomes for those incomes down the road. The streams of incomes that you create, right? Once you've attained a reasonable boost in your household income, and when it's steady, and that's assuming you're decreasing your expenses, then you could start thinking of bigger and more rewarding financial plans. This can also mean that you have to go through a credit partnership program that I have set out for my mentees and students, among others, right? Moving on. Let's talk about setting a reasonable financial target. And we're still in the discussion of setting the 5, reasons and strategies to fix your credit. We're in point number 5, setting a reasonable target, financial target. Now, let's assume you got a 480 credit score and you want $1 million business by next year, right? What's happening is you're looking at a lot of transformation and excruciating discipline and commitment to get that. It's not the easiest thing to do, unless otherwise, like I said, you go through a credit partnership program. But most of us are not in that situation to do that. We're still looking to fix our personal credit, right? If you got a 480 scorer in that instance on a second scenario, and you just want a 700 credit score, that's a more reasonable and attainable target, because that means that you probably have a goal for that 700 score, right? You have to find, first of all, finding a reason, let's be honest, right, for a score is inevitable in today's society. The entire society demands that you have good credit. Whether you're trying to get a house, a job that demands good credit, better insurance policies so you can leave your family a legacy, or just to simply enhance your lifestyle through financial transformation, everybody needs to have credit. It's not a question of choice, right? It's a question of need in today's society. It's very critical. So let's go on the topic of building wealth with your credit. So I'm assuming by now you're comfortable with the 5 points. Hey guys, leave a comment below this video. Tell me if you've got what I'm saying. Tell me if what are some of the steps you're going to take first, right? Leave it on the chat section on your right. Let me know what are some of the first steps out of the 5 that you're going to implement right away. Okay, now let's go on to building wealth with your credit. So there's actually 3 ways that I'd like to introduce. Obviously, there's thousands of ways, but the 3 most powerful ways that I feel, that you can, based on what you have, to build your credit, your wealth using credit, are these 3 things. Number 1, you can leverage your personal credit, and I mean this keyword, for high return real estate transactions. Okay, that's very critical. When you do something like that, make sure it has a potential of high income, or at least absolute security of your money or your personal credit situation. You can do the credit partnership avenue. These are exclusive to some of the students that I have with the Ultimate Personal Credit Mastery, some of the mentees that took my programs in the past. I'll go over these things with you guys a little bit more in depth. Then there's the credit arbitrage platform. There are scenarios where you can make quick flips with your personal credit, but you have to ensure the integrity of your credit and the balances that you're carrying are nurtured and taken care of in a short period of time in order for you to enhance not only your banking relationships, but also your ability to create cash flow. So let's go into the 3 main points here in more depth. First of all, let's talk about high return real estate transactions. Okay, what are that? And what are these? So there's many different ways. There's short terms, fix and flips, which you could do. That means you have lines of credit upwards of $100,000. That's where the ideal spot is, because then you'll be in a position to leverage those lines of credit. You can invest in multi-family apartment deals. The goal here is, a lot of people talk about house hacking and doing duplexes and having a portion of your mortgage paid by a tenant. The problem with that is you want to have more than 8 units, right? You want diversification and rental income de-risking. What I mean by that is, if 2 of the units go vacant out of the 8, your mortgage payments are still safe. You can actually sleep well at night and take your time finding a suitable tenant without the pressure, while making little renovations to the spot to make your cash flow improve, because you can have the rents up to standard of the market, if anything, right? And that's part of the knowledge that you need to know. It's all about de-risking. You don't have time to mess around and take a risk and experiment. You have to really understand that, hey, I want to de-risk. I want to sleep well at night, take my time, improve, and just do it well, right? Third option here is you can actually guarantee a multi-family apartment deal which has cash flow, which can sustain not only your debts with that portion of the cash flow that you receive, but also you have exchange of equity into the deal for that, because you'd be guaranteeing that. Most of the times, these are non-recourse loans. Non-recourse being, if something happens to the units or somebody goes in default, they don't come after your personal assets. They go after the apartment. And most of those times, it can be salvaged. But you wouldn't do a deal that you see as a high risk anyways, right? Again, you have to de-risk your personal situation. So that's one of the ways to build wealth with your personal credit. Second is a credit partnership avenue. This one's the most exciting one for me because I like this a lot. A lot of people feel like entrepreneurship is the greatest thing that ever happened. And I agree, depending on how you do it. But more importantly, it helps us do business together. And this is my goal for all you guys, right? What you do is you work with me. We co-invest using your personal credit into 7-figure income generating businesses. The part that I play, I source, I find the deals, I put them into a structure and take the responsibility to operate those businesses while improving their cash flow, right? Your objective is just to guarantee certain aspects of the deal. The best part about this is you have me looking over your personal credit if something happens, right? So this could also include real estate transactions where we partner into a deal, but ideally these are businesses, individuals who are retiring, baby boomers, who are coming of age, who have no succession planning, who have been trying to sell for a long time but are unable to. There's so many creative ways, right, to get it done. But sometimes we need to enhance it. We need to improve the cash flow. That's where we step in. So that's one of those ways. Now, most of the times when you do a credit partnership, the avenues are between 3 to 5 years long, which means that you need to have, and when we do a deal together, the cash flow from those businesses need to support your payment obligations to that line of credit or your personal credit or whatever the loan we attain at the time. You need to leverage it, but you also need some extra in exchange of equity and or cash flow so that you can maintain your debts and have some extras in your pocket while having a very lucrative business behind you, right? That's very ideal. Let's move on to the next topic. Credit arbitrage platform, right? Credit arbitrage platform, interesting component there, right? What happens is you're creating business structures for the short term. You're flipping goods. A lot of people say these are e-commerce, wholesaling. Most of the times it's also high demand goods, but that's very powerful. What happens is you essentially create a scenario within a short period of time, bring items and goods, and wholesale it really fast in a short period of time. You have to sometimes use your business and personal credit so you can get maximum funding for that. What it does, you get the items, you sell it. What happens? You have a cash flow, you have a buffer, you have some cash sitting with you, and you're stacking. A lot of people will take that money and try to enjoy it personally. What you can do is you can increase the transaction sizes from small to large over a period of time. What happens now is you start building faster wealth, right? That's what you're trying to achieve. I hope that makes sense. So let me ask you this. Of the 3 strategies that I shared, which one do you guys like the most? Right? Leave it in the comment section below. Let me know what you like out of the 3 strategies the most. It's very critical. And I'd like to say that, look, when you're trying to fix your credit, you're starting on this journey, I know it's not easy. There's a lot of temptations. You want to apply for the next best thing right away. I want you to know not to be pressured. Follow the strategies that I laid out for you in this video. Fact of the matter is, go play back this video as many times as you want, as long as you get the information, right? And share, like I said, on the chat section or on the comment section below, if you're watching this beyond the premiere time, which one of these strategies did you guys like the most? I'd like to know, because it's helping me kind of figure out what you guys like, and I want to be able to help you guys get there to achieve your goals and dreams. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope that you gained the knowledge that you needed to gain today, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. This is always Tarafdar, your guide and mentor. Bye for now.